Meeting of Land, Water, Forest Resources Committee meeting to order. We have a roll call, please.
Jesse Betcher.
Here.
Ed Peters. Jason Weaver.
Here.
Mark Helwig.
Here.
Brian Bissonette. Kevin Shepton.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Okay, we have a quorum. Please rise, and gentlemen, put your hats for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Are we in compliance with the open meetings law?
This meeting has been noticed to the public and news media as required by section 19.84 of the Wisconsin statutes.
Thank you. Public comments. This time we'll public given the opportunity to address the committee and items not on the agenda. Please adhere to the following when addressing committee, limited to 3 minutes, should be directed at committee, not directed at individual members, and the committee members will not respond to comments. Is there anyone wishing to speak during public comments in the room or online? Okay.
Jay is online for you.
Who?
Jay is online now.
Oh, Jay Kozlowski?
Yes.
Does he have a public comment?
Nope. He's just available for his-
No public comment, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Jay. We will consider approval of minutes from previous meeting, the August meeting.
Make a motion to approve.
Have a motion by Mr. Helwig
I'll second.
and a second by Mr. Sheptick. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any nays? Nope. Okay, that passes. Events, any events for discussion or possible action?
None this month.
Okay. We have a over-the-counter land sale discussion and possible action.
Kind of two quick items. First of all, that list that is provided, on the July 13th meeting, we discussed a new process, basically that the
Mhm.
land can be sold at the counter or an online auction. What I'm requesting is just to get a motion to approve that list for the minimum bid amount, because we didn't have a motion at the previous meeting.
Okay, so we
So
made them, it's
it-
been approved at the county level that we can do that, but what you need now is a motion to approve the actual list
The
of
actual
minimum
list,
list.
correct,
Okay,
correct.
that makes sense.
So I'll make a motion to approve the tax listing.
It would be the 2021 Sawyer County land sale list.
Okay. 2021, sorry, plan sale list.
I will second that. And in further discussion, I would ask that, so this is from 2021. So then we have to do this for 2022
Correct.
list as well. And when will
Correct.
when will we do that? Next
Well-
September?
Potentially, we can do that next month. Yes, we just received a list this week of what was taken back last year.
Mhm.
And so we will proceed with that probably next month.
Is it normal to be a year and a half behind, or is this just due to the COVID?
It's
things?
generally, this is property that has not sold.
Right.
From previously. So now our 2016 foreclosures will come up about this time annually.
Okay, so that's 17, 2018.
It's a 5-year period.
Okay,
So this is the list right now of all the unsold property that's already been advertised and had the opportunity for the public to bid on.
Mhm.
It's been on this list for at least a year. Some of these might actually go back
Even further.
even further.
Mhm.
So Janine thought she wanted this list just approved to set a date and time where this is our list of current over-the-counter properties with minimum bid amounts. And actually, at some point, you probably will want to consider lowering these bids because these are all like the bids that have been the minimum bid amounts that were previously advertised. What Janine plans to do is take this list and put it on the Wisconsin surplus auction site. Just give it one more round of letting the public know these properties are available and this is the minimum bid. And I think whatever doesn't sell through that process, she'll bring back and you can consider lowering the minimum bid amounts.
where are those minimum bid amounts? Where do they come from? Just not just tax values?
No, they're set here. That's the 22 list that you just asked about.
Mhm.
So those properties have been in tax arrears. They've gone through the in-rem process. And now in the next month, I'm assuming Janine will do some research on those properties. Put together the parcel maps, some description of the properties, the back taxes that are owed, and bring them to the committee next month. And work with you to set the minimum bid amounts for the 22 list. That make sense?
That does. I'm just wondering, like, to get that number, it's not just pulled out of the air. Are you
Town assessor.
town assessor, are you getting input from any realtors or adjacent property values? or-
Generally not,
Generally
no.
not.
Okay,
She'll bring you a recommendation based on the assessment roll and the back taxes that we need to recover that we've already paid out to the other taxing jurisdictions.
so that assessor is a county employee?
No,
Each township each township hires an assessor to assess their township
Okay,
properties.
so we're not incurring additional fees for that is what I'm getting at. Okay,
no. No.
Okay.
In years past, Sawyer County has never used the online auction service. But other surrounding counties have, and I think they've been pretty successful at it. So previous years, if something hasn't sold within that 12-month period, Sawyer County generally reduces the price 25%.
Mhm.
I thought since other counties are having success with the online auction, that's something that Sawyer County should also
Oh, yeah.
pursue. And part of me thinks that we pursue that before we drop the properties, that 25%.
Yep, fully agree. If
If
I'm
that-
gonna buy land, first place I'm gonna go is online. I'm not gonna look in the newspaper where, yeah, so.
Right, yeah,
think it's
and we
great.
did post from that July 13th meeting, we did put a notice out in the paper. Posting this list, and we did have one come in over the counter and sell
Mhm.
outright. And we have one, that's the next one on the agenda,
Mhm.
that one has come in, but it's less than that minimum.
I
bid
saw
amount.
that, yeah, quite a bit less. Okay, so we have a motion by Mr. Hellwig, a second by myself. Any further discussion on the approval of the list, county land sale list for 2021? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, that passes. Then letter B,
So the next item is the application that we did receive. And this parcel in the town of Brown Lake has a home on it. The minimum bid is 77,700. And we did receive an application just end of last week in the amount of $52,000. So simple calculation, 25,000 would be about 58,000. So this one came in about 33% less.
right, so you're asking, so you need we need a motion to approve this?
It's, yes, the decision is whether or not to approve it or to reject it. Tim Hagberg has been to the property. He did send me an email because I asked for his feedback on it. I have not been on site to know what it's like. He did recommend that Sawyer County accept the less than minimum bid for this parcel. I do have one photo that he shared. It looks like the foundation might have some concerns. The individual that did put in the application has looked at the property. They have been on site, is my understanding.
I just have a question. Do we just make a recommendation to the board on this?
It would have to go, yes. Yeah. I'm assuming that's correct, Andy. That's how it's been in the past.
Then I'd make that recommendation.
You're making a motion
Make a
to
motion to recommend that
to
they sell at this.
approve the sale at 33% below the minimum bid. Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Weaver
Second.
and a second by Mr. Hellwig. So any further discussion? I would say that I don't like the sound of this. It sets a bad precedent. We have a minimum bid for a reason, and if now we start selling properties at 33% the minimum bid amount, then that's could potentially open up floodgates to everybody else submitting a bid for 33% below the minimum bid. then if we don't approve it, then people are gonna be like, well, why did this guy get approved and I didn't? And with the economy the way it is and with property values going up and interest rates going up, I don't see why, and even if there is some structural damage or whatever to the foundation, I'm not a realtor, but I don't think that automatically qualifies for a 33% reduction in asking price in the minimum price. So any further discussion on,
I would just say that I see so many of these properties that have just gone dilapidated in Northwoods Beach, and it would have been better to put a family in there, especially with our housing shortages in the county. That if we can get a family in there and fix a property, I'm all for it.
I agree, there's just so many houses there.
Falling apart out there.
I just wonder what happens with that property. So, I guess it goes, that's right here. So many, and then like you say, if we can get somebody in the facility and we can make some money out of it.
Generate cash.
so this is one, so if this didn't sell, this is one of those properties that would be listed on the online.
Correct.
Market,
correct. If
which-
this was, right, if this did get rejected, this would be included in the online auction.
And the potential buyers are from several counties away, is that right? Maybe down in like
Ellsworth.
Pepin County, is that, or whatever?
Yeah.
So that's, I hear what Mr. Weaver is saying as far as getting, local families in there or whatever, if they're gonna fix it up, but
Yeah, because on the application has,
May I interject?
is this, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Hey, wouldn't the best course of action be to reduce the minimum bid to that amount and then reopening it for bid as opposed to accepting? Because I mean, going back a few years ago, I was looking at some properties and thinking about doing this, and I was told that you couldn't even accept something below a minimum bid because it's posted as that minimum. But as you, the committee, you could reduce the minimum bid, but then reopen it for other bidders, because you may end up starting a bidding war then at that point, and you could potentially be losing out on money.
Yeah, hey Jay, thanks for the input. So again, I'm very much against, well, not personally, I mean, as the chair of this committee, I'm against accepting this bid that's so much below the minimum bid that's been advertised. So I think looking at lowering, if the property, if the assessor's like, hey, maybe because this foundation or whatever, it's not worth 77,000, it's only worth 60,000 or 52,000, then I think that would be a better route to lower the minimum bid and then reopen that, which could then generate that bidding war, and then it might creep back up in the $70,000 range or whatever. But to sit here today as a committee and accept this bid that's considerably lower, it's not a little lower, it's 33% below the minimum bid. I think that's a really bad precedent, and I can't support that. But we do have a motion to accept, and we have a second to accept. And in further discussion, Mr. Alvarado has a comment.
Yeah, just to kind of cover the legalities of it. So statute 7569 covers the sale of tax delinquent real estate. And so I won't read the whole thing, but allows you as the committee of the county board, tasked by the county board to sell these properties. Like I said, our process has been referred to the county board for final approval. As far as setting the minimum bid and advertising them for sale, once they've been advertised for sale, the county is able to sell those. Those have been advertised and not sold at the minimum bid. No property may be sold for an amount that is less than the property's appraised value, which is the amount. The appraised value is the amount set by the committee initially and advertised, unless the county board or a committee designated by the county board has reviewed and approved such a sale. No property may be sold for an amount that is less than the amount of the highest bid, unless the county board or committee designated by the county board prepares a written statement available for public inspection that explains the reasons for accepting a bid that is less than the highest bid. So that's, if you're accepting one that's less than what's been advertised as the highest bid, then you're able to do that. You just need to give your reasons for doing that, and you did state your reason.
I would rescind it if that would be an option, is that we lower that price. Would you also?
I was thinking the same thing.
Okay.
If it was my motion, I would rescind,
Yep, so I would rescind that motion.
and I'm good with that. As-
Okay, so just so we're legally clear, we,
I think it's better both them. You can, yeah, if both of you are agreeing, you can rescind your motion,
so that's been rescinded. So there's currently no motion
correct?
um, on the floor.
But we could take the recommendation from Jay.
So then we would, okay, do we have to then have a motion to get it reassessed or to lower the minimum bid? Or can
Well,
you
I
do
guess
that?
my question is, are we going to lower it or are we going to take it to auction at the price that it's at the minimum that it's at? Because we could take it to auction at the minimum price, and if it doesn't sell, then you could lower it. I guess there are different options too. Because we don't have to say, obviously, accept anything at the auction for less than the minimum bid.
Right, which we don't want to do because it opens up the whole other can of worms that Andy just read about.
Right, so do we just take it to auction at this price and see if we get a minimum bid at the auction?
When is the last time, do you know when is the last time it was assessed for the value? Was that in 2016 or was it more recent?
I don't-
It must have been assessed recently because the county owns it.
Right,
The last time it was assessed would have been when it was probably before the county took it.
Right.
I don't know what the date when we took this property was.
no, I don't have that, I thought it was, and I don't have that information on me.
Can I just make a point too that, you know, I'm all for getting whatever money the county can out of these. But there's a reason that the county ends up owning them, is because of places have problems. I've seen some of these places sit for years until the county pays a bunch of money to tear them down and haul them away and sell a big lot for nothing. There's always problems with these properties. You know, there's a reason that they quit paying taxes.
All right, we just took one back and the utilities have been turned off for a year and a half. Now, that was 5 years of delinquent taxes, plus utilities have been off for a year and a half.
Plus, we're paying to maintain the local bonds and
Yep.
all that stuff.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, I mean, I've been out to this property too. I don't think it's worth the 77,000, but it's that minimum bid issue where you're correct, Mr. Chairman, where if you're accepting stuff below a minimum bid, you're opening a can of worms.
Yeah, I don't want to do that. Ms. LaRue, do you have a comment?
I'm a realtor, so I just wanted to put my 2 cents worth in. There are a lot of buyers out there looking for a property such as this. I know nothing about the property, but if it has a structure on it, it's on Callahan Lake Road. If you put it back on an online forum where people can find it, you're sure to get probably a lot more money for than what you're dealing with right now.
Right. So it sounds like our two options are A, get it reassessed and potentially lower the minimum bid, or 2, put it on the online auction with the current minimum bid of 77,000. So I'm going to ask your opinion on what of those 2 options you would recommend to the committee.
I personally say auction. We haven't tried it yet. We have nothing to lose. I mean, if it doesn't sell, we revisit it again.
If it doesn't sell at the
Because
online
everything
auction,
is sold as is.
right. So if it doesn't sell after whatever amount of time, then we can readdress it, getting it potentially reassessed or lowering that minimum
Correct.
bid.
And we can lower it and still put it back on the auction.
Okay, so based on that recommendation and input from a licensed realtor, do we then need a motion to,
That's what I was gonna ask.
no?
No, because we
Nope.
approved the
You already
list
approved.
already.
Okay. All right, so then we can move on. Good discussion. Number 9, land records and county surveyor department report.
I don't have a bunch to report. Those being busy, a lot of new address, people are still buying and moving here. Survey crews been working, projects in Radisson, Draper and Ojibwa the last month or so. Tax listing, we're buying like 2 weeks at this point. listers are gone with conferences.
Okay, any questions? If not, we'll go to number 10, Sawyer County Forestry Department. We'll start with the recreational trails report.
Okay, there's been, you probably suspected there's heavy ATV use, especially over Labor Day weekend. I rode almost every trail in Sawyer County over the weekend. And phenomenal traffic. Increasing number of families on the trails. I'm seeing large multi-seat machines with the kids and the family dog on the trails, which is kind of a newer development. Because of that, I think in the future, we're going to try to get some grant money or whatever for some more trailside facilities throughout the county, such as picnic pavilions, restroom areas to stop, things like that. I don't know if we'll be successful with that, but I think it's to that point where they be utilized. Let's see, we did purchase, the Alliance purchased 3 more data counters. We have 6 total. I haven't had time to program them yet and install them, but I'll get those out. We'll probably have some reports for next week or the next meeting. The Traffics program that I'm using right now generates some reports. And a few interesting points is they take the average daily traffic and multiply it by a 7-month ATV year because they don't typically ride all winter. And for instance, the Trail 3 Osprey Creek Bridge will generate an estimated 32,706 users every 7-month year. Let's see. Trail 31 in the Sealy Hills will generate 12,608 users based on those statistics. Similar, Lake Helene, 10,001. So we're getting a lot of activity and it's growing. The Alliance met with Forestry Department, Greg Peterson, recently to discuss condition of the forestry trails, trail improvements needed, best maintenance procedures, and our contract. North Country Riders ATV Club is hosting a sign work day on Sunday, September 18th in Sealy Hills. We plan to keep working until all the signage is updated and including new signage, installing or redoing faded signs, things like that. Trail brushing will start in the southern part of the county and work northwards this month. We had discussions and grants going for culvert and bridge repairs. And the Alliance Trail Captains are getting their winter grooming equipment ready and acquiring consumable supplies. So we're well stocked and ready for winter. That's about it.
Thanks, Kathy. Any questions? So I just have one question. So you said you've been out on every trail and you mentioned heavy ATV use, but what is the state of the trails in your opinion? Are they like getting worn down, tore up?
Well, because of the high ATV use over the last few years, and again, it's growing, there's definitely more maintenance that needs to be done than we've experienced in the past. And it's an ongoing battle because we're a volunteer organization, so it's a challenge to keep up with the trail line.
Okay, and those restrooms, potential restrooms and picnic areas that you mentioned, where would the funding come from? Would that be through a
I'm not
grant?
sure. There's several different grant opportunities. I know that we just applied for one through the DNR. It has an enhancement grant program. Not real familiar with it, but we did get approval to put a shelter on the Tuscobia Trail. So we'll look into more of that. I think Ski-Doo has a snow pass grant that we might utilize. It's usually a matching 50-50 type grant programs. That's all I usually find out there. Not sure if we can apply for anything through our usual trail funding programs. We haven't looked into that yet.
You can. Yeah, support facilities are covered in our normal grant applications. They're
Oh,
a
okay.
little bit further down
Yeah.
the priority list, but you can get them through sometimes.
All right, then, if there's no more questions, move on to letter B, County Forestry Report.
Okay, for the month of August, we had 8 sales listed as active. We're starting to see a little bit of an uptick in activity recently. Sale value sold and uncut on file is just under 5 million. Revenue for August was about 125,000 split between our normal county forest land sales, and we had a non-county forest land timber sale. Sale revenue billed out right now is a little over 153,000. Sale inspections, we are on target for the level of activity. We're beginning to review and approve tract established for the summer and spring. Our fall timber sale bid opening, the bid prospectus will be going out like the first week of October. So we're in the review process right now, putting together that packet. Recon acres, we are on target. We're actually over goal for the year. Good Neighbor Authority, we haven't had any activity in the woods. We're currently going through our new contract for next year and working on the reimbursement for year 22 contract right now. Oak Wilt, we were scheduled, the DNR was going to do the detection flight, but had to be rescheduled due to inclement weather. So I'm expecting that flight should probably happen at some point soon, if it hasn't already. Nothing new on bike trails or Berkey trails. ATV, UTV snowmobile trails. We did have the Off-Road Vehicle Council meeting and the Snowmobile Council meeting this past week. For the ORV Council, we did receive preliminary approval on all 6 grant applications that we submitted. These 6 are all rehab grants. This is kind of how we're addressing some of the increased use as we're just doing the big rehab projects. So out of these 6, we got a couple on Tuscobia. They're kind of scattered throughout the county, our trail system, but with these grants, we've got an additional 445,000 in extra funding that we're tentatively approved for to put into the trail system for the next couple of years. So this is on top of our normal maintenance grants as well. So pretty successful meeting. Next step is it goes through an internal review through the DNR, and hopefully we get grant award letters sometimes late fall. October, November is usually when they come in. So
Any update on the ash borer problem out by Moose Lake?
I haven't heard any new information about that
Okay,
particular topic. So something we'll probably catch back up on here shortly.
welcome, Brian. Did you have any questions for Greg?
No, I just want to apologize to everybody in the committee. I had some issues I had to resolve this morning at work, so sorry I'm late.
We didn't even notice you weren't here. Before I move on, I noticed I skipped the non-motorized trails report. Is there anybody that had any comments on non-motorized? Okay, if not, we'll move on to the DNR forestry report. Yeah, sorry, Andy.
Yeah, I wasn't, as long as Brian's joined us though, can we go back to motorized?
Yeah.
Trails? I understand that LCO has made a change in policy regarding ATVs on tribal roads. Brian, can you explain that? I think that impacts maybe some trail access, but.
So the Trouble Governing Board's been in conversation with both the town of Hayward and town of Bass Lake. Nothing is totally, they're still negotiating, put it that way. So that's probably the best I can tell you at this point. I know that there was a press release put out, and I guess the press release, the accuracy of the press release really wasn't too accurate. And so, you know, right now, I've instructed my wardens not to cite anybody for if they're on an approved route already. So until the negotiations are finalized, you know, everything's as is, as it has been.
I think the press release, the county was contacted regarding the press release, wanting to know how the decision affects our trails and potential ATV ordinance. So I was just curious as to what actually has happened.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, nobody's being cited, especially if they're on an approved route already. So until a negotiation is finalized, we're not going to do anything any different than it has been.
Brian, what are they negotiating? What's the possible plan, I guess, is what I'm curious.
Well, they're determining what roads that they're willing to open up for ATV use, UTV use.
So there's a possibility some may close?
Could be. You know, I don't want to speak on behalf of the council. This is their negotiation. We just follow what they decide. So, you know, I don't see ATVs, UTVs being permanently banned off the reservation. If that's the concern, it's not going to happen. I don't see it because, you know, I mean, the tribe understands the economic benefits as well. So, I think what they're looking for is to have some control over it instead of just opening up everything and having caravans of UTVs going through our communities. So, you know, it's stuff like that they're trying to resolve. So,
Has the alliance been brought into this discussion?
what's that?
Has the alliance been brought into the discussion?
Not really, not yet. Like I said, they wanted to deal with the townships first, and they will be, assuming, in discussions with Gary from the highway department in regards to county roads. And so at this point, I don't know that there's any intention. You know, like I said, I've got limited knowledge on it. I know enough to probably either cause concern or I'm trying to calm things down. So yeah, at this point, you know, their main interest is in the towns in the county because they're the ones with ownership or I shouldn't even say ownership, but that are in the county and town inventories.
Right. Thank you very much. Brian. Thanks.
All right, thanks, Brian. Okay, so now we'll move on to the DNR forestry report.
So Jim Kajala, forester out of the Hayward office, filling in for my supervisor on presentation. Unless there's anything specific as far as questions go, everybody should have got the DNR report. Two items there, basically, the report includes draft findings from the 2022 SFI FSC certification audit that took place in Florence, Forest, Marinette, and Oconto counties. The two items there, SFI had a couple opportunities for improvement that's already being addressed within Sawyer County there, and then there were two minor cars with FSC, which is also addressed already in Sawyer County with the comprehensive land use plan. So that all of those findings will be finalized on the meeting on September 27th. So there will be a more formal release of the 2022 audit out after that. And then it sounds like Sawyer County's up in 2023 for next summer's audit there for certification. And then it looks like there was a follow-up from question last month on the elk calving study. I'm not sure what the specifics of the questions were, but.
Yeah, that was my question. I just asked.
So.
Yeah.
It's a 3-year study and they're basically trying to find the 1-year survival rates of new calves. So they had 11 that they were able to track down and get tagged this spring. And then they're gonna be redoing this for 3 years to try to get an estimate of the survival rate of new calves.
Okay.
So,
Is that it? Is that complete?
yep,
your-
that's it, unless anything else.
Any questions for Jim? Okay, so we're gonna go, we need a motion to go into closed session.
Make that motion to go in the closed session.
Second.
Have a motion by Mr. Hellwig, second by Mr. Weaver to go into closed session. Any further discussion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Yep.
Any opposed?
Should we do roll call vote for closed session?
Do we need that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, Brian. We have to do a roll call vote for this to go into closed session. So,
Jesse Betcher,
yes.
Ed Peters, of course, not here. Jason Weaver,
Here.
yes.
Yes.
Mark Hellwig,
Yeah.
Brian Bissonette,
Yes.
Kevin Shepard.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so who do we need? We need Greg in here for sure. And Andy for sure. Do we don't need the DNR in here, I don't think.
Doesn't matter. We don't really have much to discuss.
We don't?
Not really.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I can give just,
Back in open session. And do we have to announce that no action was taken, Lynn?
yeah,
But just that statement, no action was taken. in
No
closed
action was
session.
taken.
Okay. Letter E, land purchase proposal. Let's see. Isn't that need to be in closed session?
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
If there is, well, it's listed as a closed session because it was in the past.
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm just wondering why there's a separate letter E and then below that is F for closed session.
To the software. It's a clunky software.
Okay. So then we need a motion to go back into closed session. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right.
Thanks for stopping.
shit, excuse me, yes, I make a motion to go.
Motion by Mr. Hellwig to go into closed session, second by Mr. Weaver. Any further discussion? If not, we will have a roll call vote.
Mr. Betcher.
Yes.
Mr. Weaver.
Yes.
Mr. Hellwig.
Yeah.
Mr. Bissonette.
Yes.
Mr. Shepard.
Yes.
Okay. Does DNR need to be in here for this one?
It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter? Okay. Okay, back in open session, there was no action taken in closed session. Moving on to item number 11, zoning conservation department. Is Jay back on?
I'm here.
What do you got for us, Jay?
Yeah, let me pull her back up. Where'd it go? Oh, thanks. Yeah, so Natalie Erler has been working on the Grindstone Lake Management Plan as well as the Hayward Lakes Aquatic Management Plan. Good discussion going with those. We did some purple loosestrife control near Nelson Lake. There was one Eurasian water milfoil area that was detected on this Big Sisabagama. They are monitoring that, and I think there's another boat session that's scheduled for later next week to take a look at that area for treatment site. We are working on the stop log removals and the dewatering of Lake Loretta. So far, so good, knock on wood. It's been going pretty well. Very interesting process to try to remove those logs that have not been removed for 20 years, but with the help of the town Draper and their excavator and operator. We've been getting them pretty good. So we're down about 3 feet right now, and we need to get about another 8 to 9 feet of water out by the 25th with a 6-inch per day drawdown. So very interesting. If you ever want to see that process, you can come on out tomorrow morning or Friday morning. We'll probably be there around 8 a.m., 9 a.m. tomorrow, and removing additional logs. There was discussion held last week with the DNR regarding the Callahan Dam. Very good open discussion for that first meeting, but ultimately the DNR has now, fully pinged Callahan Dam as something that needs to be repaired and needs to be repaired within a certain time frame here. It's not in good shape, and they are looking at trying to find the ownership. And I don't want to get too far down that road yet, because ultimately we have to have more discussion with the DNR to see what route they want to go. But it's ultimately, we find ownership and someone replaces or repairs it, or they end up pulling it and turning it back into river system. Andy Alvarado is at that meeting as well, and we'll continue to update the committee as we have additional information available. So with that, there's also a floating bog that's in front of the Nelson Lake Dam right now. It is starting to break up a little bit. It's not a very wooded, vegetated bog. It's more of that lake bottom muck that ends up floating up, but it is impeding some of the water from going over the dam. Luckily, right now, the dam gates are closed because we are kind of in a little bit of a drought, but we'll definitely have to be kind of thinking outside the box as to how to potentially remove that bog from that area if we either get a heavy rain event, or especially by this fall, where we are looking at doing a 2-foot drawdown. So if we try to do a 2-foot drawdown, that bog is just going to be stuck right against the dam, and that's a big no-no, because if we got a significant rain event, that could have a catastrophic failure there. So trying to think outside the box. It might be something in correlation with the lake association that we get a few boats out there and try to get some type of anchor hold onto this thing and try to drag it somewhere else. But we're hopefully also waiting for a good north wind that might just blow this thing back out to the main lake, and we can try to get it secured somewhere else and not in front of the dam. So with that, that's my report. If there's any additional questions, I can certainly ascertain those at this point.
Do you know anything about, so you mentioned milfoil, and I don't know if maybe Brian is more of the expert on that, but I understand, I was reading something about some treatment that was done up in Bayfield County on a lake. I don't know if it's an experimental treatment, but I guess it's been pretty effective with, they put in a barrier system near the shore and treated it with some chemical like RDR or 2DR or something like that, and doesn't kill any other vegetation, just the milfoil doesn't harm the fish or other aquatic wildlife. I'm just wondering if that's something that Sawyer County has ever looked at doing.
Yeah, and we have done those treatments before. Generally, they're done by the individual lake association. We'll help do the identifications and monitorings of those sites, but we generally don't do the eradication. Those are generally hired out by private individuals, usually at the discretion as well as the cost associated with the lake association. That type of chemical treatment works well on smaller isolated patches, especially near shoreline patches where you can actually rope off a specific area and do the chemical treatments. I didn't know that there was a product that was specifically just targeted to Eurasian milfoil. I'd imagine any kind of chemical treatment is going to kill, the natural vegetation as well. But again, when you're looking at a certain confined area, that works well. And on a majority of our lakes, Lac-Courte, Round, Grindstone doesn't actually have any yet, which is great. But those are larger infestations of Eurasian milfoil, which they can be very difficult to now eradicate.
Okay. All right. I hadn't heard of it before, so I didn't know if we had tried it. All right. Thanks. Any other questions for Jay? If not, we'll go to USDA report.
There's just a couple of things going on. September 1st was the deadline to pay your dairy margin coverage premiums. September 22nd, is proposal deadline for NCR grazing lands. Incentives. September 30th is for sign up starts for non-crop disaster assistant program. This is for like alfalfa, clovers, grasses, and wild rice. This is for the year 2023 coming up. September 30th is acres reporting deadline for loss value control environment crops and nurseries, except for nurseries. September 30th, crop insurance for local sales closing date for forage production on rye and wheat. And October 10th, the proposed deadline for NCSR wetlands mitigation banking program. They plan on dumping $5 million into that program, out of wetlands. Then sorry to say, 20th of September here now, our CCD guy is moving to Michigan. So we'll be without a CCD person right now for a little while. We nominated somebody within the house, but we don't know if she will accept it yet or not. So we'll be looking for a new guy now on our 4 offices.
All right. Any questions for Kevin? If not, Brian, we'll go to LCO report.
I don't really have too much. We've probably in the general public's interest, we have been buying wild rice. We have a reseeding program. Typically, we will reseed lakes within the reservation boundaries, and so that's ongoing today. In fact, our staff is, the majority of our staff is out with the LCO school teaching kids how to wild rice today. So that's about it.
Okay, no updates on any bear nuisance problems like in the past. Have you had any more upticks, or is it went down?
Over the last couple of weeks were bad, but we're hoping that with enough food available that it'll start to decline a little bit, at least for temporarily. The one major thing that we've been dealing with, and this is an ongoing issue, is the illegal dumping. Man, we get so many illegal dump sites, it's not even funny. So it's one of them things that we just keep cleaning up as we find them. So.
Okay, any questions for Brian? All right, if not, we'll go on to number 12, future agenda items. I think we need to probably put the carbon credits on there for next month so we can continue moving forward, maybe for discussion and possible action.
Actually, yeah.
Okay. Anything else for future agenda items, anybody?
I keep those 2 items on there yet, that one about the
Trail right away. Yes.
Yeah. That'll need to be, so that one will need to be a closed session as well. Okay, any reports, conferences, meetings, other matters for discussion only?
I have a question. Can we move the closed session maybe at the end? Some, so that, like, that was kind of a weird, and I think it happened last month. Yeah. Where we went closed session, came out, and then came back, and then we went back to closed session.
I think we're required to do that, though. We can't just stay in closed session for multiple discussions. Each event has to be opened and closed and open and closed.
Right, but I mean, could they be moved to the end instead of having,
We moved it pretty far down. There was only
these
zoning
people,
after.
or people that do want to come, the in and out thing is one of that,
Noted. We'll try to adjust the agenda to accommodate Mr. Hellwig's desires.
Thank you.
All right. If there's nothing else, we're adjourned.